Good evening, everybody. We are jumping into another session together here. And if you have any questions, you can put it into the chats. You can send it my way if you have my cell number. Send it via text. If you want to direct message me on any one of the platforms, then you can do that too. Anyway, all right, we got the first question came through. Matt G. My man said, what is your favorite animal and why? That's a good one. Let me think. All right. Let me think through the animal, bro. I mean, I got a lion right here to my left of me. Maybe a lion. I think lions are majestic and mighty. I think I like lions. I like, maybe we'll get a little merch going on, and we'll rock some lions. So anyway, that's question number one. I have a few that I've jotted down as well. I think what I'm gonna do is, as I get questions throughout the week, I'm gonna create a little repository of storage of questions that I can respond to. Matthew G. Bro said, they murder things, and that's a sin. So again, maybe that's a philosophical debate, but does that count? So does flies? Does flies count? Does ants count? Does um, so he put oh yeah, it's already on. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, they're majestic, man, and there is something about animals that kind of coincide with the scriptures. There is a proverb in chapter 28 that the proverb says the righteous are as bold as a lion. So I think when I think of a lion, I know the lion as a figure can represent the devil if you look at 1 Peter 5, but then you also get a representation of, it's supposed to represent people who are bold and courageous, which is something I want to be. So I think that it embodies something. And plus, if you look at some of the details of how the temple was constructed, part of the design of the temple was the lion was a part of the decoration of the temple. It's a fascinating detail, and the God. If you consider God behind the design of the temple, that God chose that as part of the decoration. And I know sometimes I think there is even like in faith communities, there can be a desire to maybe get away from whatever flashy designs, but something I think about is the temple often, and the decoration and design of that initial temple, especially Solomon's temple. There was such beauty in the design. It wasn't plain. I think that would be a stretch. So anyway, if God chose to design things with a lion, then I think that's a good enough reason for me to like the lion. So how about that, my brother? Is that good enough for you? He said, where we at? You can only like vegetarian animals, like the giraffe, I suppose. The giraffes are pretty beasts. I mean, it takes like several lions to beat them. So, at least according to the YouTube videos I've seen. Dang, scriptural comeback. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'll give you a little fire for saying sorry on the internet, brother. Like, this is a man of God right here. Oh, this is a good one. Who is the pop culture pastor that you respect and admire most? I'll move your most to the end of that question. So good one. Dang, that's a really good one, because depending on the pastor or the person, there's so many that are criticized. which I try not to do that. But let me think. Name a few. If you're listening and you know of a few pastors, I I'm trying to put a few in context. Um, Let me think. So off the head, I think of I'm this is not my answer, but I'm just kind of kind of mind downloading the pastors that I'm aware of. So there's like Stephen Furtick, there's T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteen, there is Mike Todd, there is you said all the ones I just said. Tim Ross. Tim Ross is is a podcaster now, so he kind of is kind of still in that space. So he's like, not exactly a pastor, but he's like doing podcasting and supposed to be like the number 37th podcast in the world right now. Tim Ross. Yeah. I thought I had one. Oh, so Rick Warren. I guess he retired. He said it's delayed. I typed it first. Rick Warren. I've actually. I don't know if those of you are keeping up with the Rick Warren situation with him, or with the church he founded, the Saddleback Church in California, was kicked out of the SBC. If you don't know what the SBC is, it's the Southern Baptist Convention, or it's the biggest evangelical denomination in America. So they're kicked out because of their interestingly, Matt, the role of women, and Rick Warren being cool with pretty much appointing and raising up women elders and pastors. But I mentioned him because he went through a very public situation with his son's choice to end his son's choice to end his own life, and he talked about that with such grace, humility, and sobriety that it really commanded a lot of my respect. So if I were to answer the question outside of the issue of women in ministry, then I think it would be Rick Warren, man. I think the way the way people respond to hardship, it often commands my respect. So Matt put a picture of a golf, the green, I suppose. No, definitely sad, brother. Like sad and hard for sure. He said it's International Women's Month. I didn't even put that together, bro. That it was all connected. But bro, like those red flag. They got it. I think it's interesting topic. I don't have it as a primary issue. I think people can believe something different and maybe even practice something different. But I still think I have a difficult time stretching those passages to mean anything other than like women's roles, seem to be limited, at least in that 90-minute window or 60-minute window of church service. So anyway, I'm open though. Like, when it comes to people who have expressed differences, and there's some even people within the ICOC thing. Lisa Johnson did a series on mutuality. I'm open to listening to that even over stream and engaging the conversation. See if there's soundness there. I think a lot of arguments I've heard in favor of that thought process, I don't see them very sound, but I'm open. I'm open. I'm open to additional perspective that I might be missing. But even Rick Warren gave his best case scenario, or I guess the best reasons he had for believing it, because he just changed his mind about it 3 years ago. But even what he said was so unconvincing. I was like, that was it. That's the position. Let's see what we got. Matt, hey, I love you, brother. Oh, dang, over here. Hold on, let me put some nice music on or something. When you first told me your name. There we go. He said, miss you a lot, praying for you. Going to take my mom to see Cocaine Bear in the movie. Call me soon. Have an amazing rest of your podcast. Yeah, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Should have known it was you I would love until.
Love you too, brother. Oh man, we gotta get you back on. We gotta get you virtual because messing with the whole studio is a nightmare. I didn't realize I was creating for myself. But yeah, man, tell your mom I said hello and appreciate the interaction. He said, "Thanks for exposing me and putting my man card in jeopardy." I don't know. Oh, let me take the song off. Oh man, you know what's funny is when men are real and they have that connection with other men. I think it is interesting to think about who actually has a problem with it. I'm not sure if it's maybe I'm in a bubble, but I'm not sure as it's severe as people make it out to be. So anyway, we'll keep it moving. Another question that I'm gonna give credit to. This is a little different from me. I'm gonna give credit to this question to the Holy Spirit. Can I give the Holy Spirit permission to ask me questions? And it wasn't right now. It wasn't like I heard it audibly, but anyway, I was praying today, and one of the questions that came to me was, have I been as gracious and charitable as is best for, even toward in about my dad? I was thinking about how I speak openly about my experience on this side of responding to how my dad was or was not there and some of the details of my upbringing. Yet the question that came to me today which was, have I been gracious toward him? Have I been merciful toward even his memory, even if it's not, yeah, I mean, there's certainly a number of unpleasant things, but I felt like that question came up, and there's an element of respect and honor that I'd give to people in my life and try and being mindful of the way I talk about people and being cautious with wanting to speak in a way about people that builds them up and that benefits them. And I think there is I've spoken, in a really upfront way about, his, whatever, maybe his shortcomings. But I'm not sure if that's best, right? I was thinking about him as a person, and he's somebody's son, right? And he's not somebody's son, but he's my grandma's son, right? And he's my aunt's brother, and he's my cousin's uncle, and it's more than just me. So as I reflect on, have I been as gracious and merciful toward him, his memory, I'm not convinced that I have been. And if not, then it's certainly a reason for me to be able to reflect and make changes to be more charitable and merciful toward him. So I have this idea of a video that maybe I'll get a chance to do, which is a video where I'm in my dad's seat and I'm asking, and it's a speech to me, and it's about how I've engaged with him, and it's the idea of like embodying his person and putting myself in his shoes, and kind of an exercise in empathy. So anyway, it's something that I'm seeing in my life that I think it's good and beneficial for me to change. Another question is the updates in the studio. What are some of those updates? So one thing you can see is did invest in a couple of sliders. So if you're paying attention to the video, at least you can see that movement of my background and my position with my camera over here. So that's on a slider, and that was an interesting lesson as far as I've never messed with sliders before. I've watched videos online about them, but to be able to get a couple of my own. So I have a slider over here to my right, have another slider to my left. This one, I think because of the camera kind of catches my face as I move. If I move a little bit, then the camera seems to reorient itself. But anyway, that's a little bit of an update for the slider. The two sliders in the studio, a few changes that I've made there. Let's see, what else? What else do we got? I have a list of questions. Yeah, one of the questions is like, how are you, praying right now through some of the church drama? And part of my prayer life has stayed the same. It hasn't shifted massively, but I think naturally with so much mystery, praying for anybody who's making decisions in the church situation. I'm praying that they have wisdom to know what's best. I'm praying that they have courage to take best paths. I'm praying that they have pure hearts, that they may not be distracted or disoriented from Satan's schemes or the forces of evil. I'm praying that that may be the innocent be vindicated. I'm praying that may the guilty be brought to justice. I'm praying that mercy may be extended to all people in the situation. I think we all need mercy. I need mercy. And mercy, as a quick reminder, mercy is kindness undeserved. So if kindness is, the idea of thinking, speaking, or doing good for another person, mercy is the thinking, speaking, or doing good for somebody who actually legitimately doesn't deserve it. And I think it's where the Christian faith has the opportunity to shine, is because it's not just kindness when it makes sense, but it's kindness when it doesn't make sense. So that's what I'm praying, that God's mercy be poured on everybody. I need a lot of that, and I think it's one way that we shine during these times. Another question that came up is, the question about when everything was happening, if people told me they would go to a church that I led, and the answer to that question was, yeah, people did tell me that. But I don't think it's that easy. I think there's a lot of factors that are involved, which is a kind of a connected question, which is, what's your big hesitation of leading a church and all of that? And I think there's more factors than just me. I think a lot about my family, my household, how we're doing, and how we're processing the weight of some of the challenges. So I don't think it's just, oh yeah, preach and but there's so much more. And I think I also gauge the strength of my shoulders, and even my shoulders that are reliant on God. I think there's got to think about a lot more people than just me. So, when I was young, there was a part of me who rushed into challenge or into opportunity without really evaluating it. There's the optimist inside of me who sees only the good and doesn't see the challenges that will come along the way. But nowadays, I think I just have people in my circle that help me process and think through the realities of situations. And there's a friend of mine who, I actually had him on the show. I think it's public information. A friend of mine, Sean, he shared about engaging with a house church coach, and they did house church movements. And one of the insights he had shared with me is they advised in even doing house church stuff, which was like to not do it with disaffected church members. Like, don't do it with people who were hurt, wounded by their prior church, or like were dealing with trust issues from their prior church. Like, no, you don't do it with them. You do it with um, another couple who are really, really solid. So, again, interesting detail. That wasn't a detail I created, but it's one that came to me. So it just makes you think about that, And there's an often quoted, I think it's a truism, where it says, hurting people hurt people, and I think about that for my family. When people are hurt, it's more likely to hurt other people. I think Matt asked me another question. He asked me, why do you sound like Barry White? Is this an R&B station? Oh, I'm not sure why. I told myself I was gonna be a little more relaxed on tonight's stream. So, quick background story with my sliders. As I mentioned them earlier, so the sliders that are on this camera are the cameras on the slider that's on this camera. When I ordered two of them, one from Amazon, one of them came with the broken motor, so it wasn't performing the main function that it's supposed to do, which was to cause the camera to move from left to right. So I had to send one of them back, and then the replacement came in, and I had to also send that one back. So then I finally bought one that actually worked. But the situation is, I think my worry is you have a 30-day window to return it, at least on these sliders. So I think it's wise to go live for the next every single day for the 30 days, for at least, to make sure that they're well functioning. So another incentive to go live every single day and to use the sliders. Okay. Next question. We're answering the questions sent my way. So we have, how are you praying for people that leave? They leave the church that I go to. Yeah, and I'm praying that for their success. I'm praying that they thrive. I'm praying for their peace and their joy. I'm praying that they do well wherever they go. And I pray that they're joining another church, that they're nourished and built up, and strengthened and blessed by God. There's that passage that the Lord bless you song is based on. I believe it's Numbers chapter 6, but I'll pull it up here in case it's not. Numbers 6. Yeah, it is. It's a blessing. It's a priestly blessing. In verse 24 of chapter 6, it says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace." And I think that's a prayer I'm praying for people who are choosing to leave, right? I when I was younger, I had this weird, distorted thought of if somebody ever left the church I was going to, I had a distorted perspective that I somehow, for some reason, hoped that their life wouldn't go well apart from the church I went to, so that they would ultimately want to come back. But I repented and changed from that mindset. Is now it's like I want people to do well, and people who've been exposed to enough difficulty in life and seen people really go through challenges. I heard this from a minister actually at a marriage retreat, and he was talking about his daughters, and he was contrasting two experiences. One of them is when his daughters, so he's like, some of the dads in his church have talked about they were so sad because their kids left the church and went to join a Methodist church down the corner, and they were sad and crying, upset. And then his daughters not just left the church, but he was getting phone calls on the weekends to bail them out of jail. And he just saw this massive contrast. Like, I would gladly trade problems. I wish that my daughters were only the issue was only they were just going to do a Methodist church instead of our church. And that just gave me perspective. And I've seen that in my own life as people that I love and care about have struggled. Like, I want want people to do well, period. If they go to my church, great. If they don't go to my church, also great. And I know community is so important for that. So that's a little bit how I pray and think about people who leave now is I want people to do good and great, regardless of what church they go to, even if they don't go to a church. I want people to do great. So that's that question. Again, if you're hopping in, if you have questions you want to throw my way, I'll gladly engage with them, put them in the chat or text me or direct message me. I'll have that up as well. All right. Next one we got. How are you praying for people that stay? I think people who are staying in the church that I go to, even with this difficult time, I'm praying for them too, that they're healed and strengthened, and I think when then the church has its difficulties and challenges, there's a temptation. I know the temptation I feel, which is like inviting people to church, right, and bringing people to church during a not so glorious season is a temptation, is a thought of like, how can I bring people to this church with what's going on now? But my prayer is that our eyes will be open to see God's faithfulness to make an impact on people outside of our church, even in a season like this. And it's already happening. So anyway, so I'm praying for healing. I'm praying for eyes to be open to see God's faithfulness. It's a big way I'm praying for people that stay. And all right, see if those ones. Okay, this is a little different. We were at a dinner, couple of friends, and I don't know how we were talking about being able to cry on stream, which is actually rather difficult. And even as somebody like me who, I was watching, I think I saw a few scenes from Spider-Man. It was like the Andrew Garfield version when Gwen falls and ends up passing, ends up dying. And then him saving MJ and that being like a full circle closure. And there's like this edit that was like a YouTube short, and it just like evoked such powerful emotion in me. But the idea of crying on demand, I actually don't have that ability. I've explained it before, a little bit like a Venn diagram, where it has to be something that's sad in my life and then something that's good in my life. And like, if you think about these two things overlapping, then like if I'm able to harness both of those emotions at the same time, then I'm able to. So even the last, crying video that I did, it was admiring my brother and him being an amazing father. So that's like the good, right? How I'm inspired by him and I'm amazed by him, and I'm so impressed and proud of the man he is and the father he is. And now that was the good, and it's contrasted with the other side, which is the sadness of our dad not being present, right? So when I'm able to harness these two things simultaneously, and especially when there's subplots of those concepts, because I've had plenty of father figures, whether my grandpa or my stepdad, like who was there in different pockets in different ways, or different coaches and teachers who purposefully invested, and those are connected to the gratitude side. And then, so if I cannot cry on demand, but if I'm able at times to harness these simultaneously things with a good uplifting thought, memory, concept, and then a sad, depressing memory concept together, that's where that magic space is for me. All right, where we at? Do you feel guilt easily? So I over the years, I've joked about, even in my upbringing, that the guilt button on my soul was kind of pressed. Um, maybe, and I've joked about my mom wore that button off when I was a kid, but I don't know if that's completely accurate. But I'm not I don't process a whole lot of guilt, and I aim to not have a lifestyle that would keep guilt very long. So the idea is, if I don't want to be guilty, I just try to do things that I try to live a life where that there's not stuff to feel guilty about, especially when I'm aware of my intentions and motives. I think but I think regrets are real, and I think I'm very comfortable with knowing things that I regret and wish I would have done differently. So that's a little bit different than categorically from guilt, where for me, when I'm processing regret, I'll give you an example even from tonight. Tonight, I went to one of my friend's daughter's basketball games. It was like the most electrifying, intense middle school game that I've ever even heard of. It was intense. It was more intense than most high school games that I've been to. Even like it was like a high school playoff game. It's like one of those college. It's like a Duke University game. I mean, I'm kind of hyping that at this point, but um, I think I had a little bit of a regret of the first thing I told my friend's daughter. I wanted to tell her how amazing she did. Um, I said something like, "Oh, you were making us nervous," but it wasn't she was making us. The game was so it was a nail biting experience. They ended up winning at the very end. But I was like, "Oh, why did I say that?" And if I could go back, I would have done it differently. So I'm aware of the regret, and then I've internalized it, and then I've created a solution of going back and writing her something where she's able to hear all these good things about what she did. So to me, like, even when there's a regret or something guilty, and I don't think it was a bad thing for me to say it. I just think I wish I would have said something way more uplifting when I hugged her after the game. So anyway, that's guilt. Do you feel guilty easily? Not. I try not to do things that make me feel guilty, and that kind of helps with that situation. All right, next question is, how do you define success? I've read a bunch of definitions of success over the years, reading. Um, anyway, I think so much of success now is, am I able to do what I want with my time? So success is based on that. If I want to go for an 8 mile walk, jog, run, am I able to do that with my time if I wanted to? If am I able to be there for my family and invest in them? Am I able to be there in the community? Am I able to be present for my friends? These things. Am I able to connect with my wife on a regular basis? These are things that I think about when it comes to success. Is how am I able to use my time? Time is the most relevant thing in all of that. Is how I'm able to use my time now. Let me see. Beyond that, I think those are the main questions I had. But anyway, if you have questions you'd like me to engage in, I'd be glad to send them my way, and we'll see you on the next video. You all have a good night.